As a person, here's the next question. As a person with an emotional disorder, how do you explain your intense feelings? Well, I don't have borderline personality disorder. I used to, and I had it for the first 35 years of my life. I'll tell you what it is. I'll tell you where these intense feelings are coming from. Misperceptions. So if I look out the window and I see a woman struggling with a man, it looks to me like he's trying to steal her purse or rape her or something, and I think that woman's in danger. What are the feelings am I experiencing? Anger, a rush of adrenaline. I jump up from doing this show and I go racing outside, down to the street, ready to fight, right? This is what my feelings are doing. They're really elevated and really volatile. I'm ready to get into it. And I get down there and I see, wait a second, they're shooting a commercial. I see the television cameras. I see the director in the director's chair. I see the lighting and everything, and the guy with the microphone boom. I go, wait a second. I just about rushed onto this film set to rescue this actor because I thought she was in danger. What happens to my feelings? My feelings completely subside, don't they? That is happening all the time for people with emotional disorders, because their understanding of what it is they're seeing is completely off. They're interpreting the experience through a completely false filter, and the feelings just are what they are. They're not experiencing feelings any differently than you and me. If you and I were looking through that same filter and misunderstanding the same thing, in other words, we're viewing the thing and we're understanding it in the same way they are, the same extremely offensive or hurtful way that they are, our feelings would react the same way. So folks who have emotional disorders, their feelings are not malfunctioning. They're not acting in any way different from any other human being. That's a complete lie and a myth. So that's the answer to the question. How do you explain intense feelings? Perceptions. Misperceptions. All right, so there were a couple things I promised here. Let's cut off that. I told you I'd tell you a story about Jordan. Here's the thing about old Jordan. He was not a... Well, let me just tell the story. We had a friend, a mutual friend, older friend. This is an adult. We were kids. This happened when we were in our probably late teens. The friend of ours was an adult, had a wife, had kids. Every once in a while, he'd hire us to do labor work for him, manual work. His name was Buck McSwords. And I tell people that, and they go, you got to be kidding me. No, his name was really Buck McSwords. I was just telling my buddy Lambert, who was here helping me with some electric last weekend, and I started telling him about this Buck McSwords. Oh man, he had me laughing. Talking about this guy like you're imagining like some kind of action hero or something, you know. It's got to be the coolest name of all time. Buck McSwords. Anyway, Buck had hired us. He had gotten a job to paint a house in a nearby town. It was in the middle of summer. So he asked Jordan and I if we'd like to make some extra money. We said sure. Went out there. He took us out to the house. The first thing we had to do was go all around this house. The paint was old and kind of chipping off, and we had to take a tool and scrape as much of the old paint off the house as we could. It was 100 degrees outside. We're out there working, scraping, up on ladders, down the ladder, up the ladders, down the ladders. This was going to take days just to do the scraping. Like I said, it was about 100 degrees outside. Jordan and I get out there. We're not 30 minutes into it. He says, hey, I need to go get something out at the house. He said, do you mind if I step away? I'll come right back. I said, no, buddy, go on. So I kept on scraping paint. I mean, I was at it all day long. It was exhausting. Jordan takes off, and about 2.5, 3 hours go by. The whole time I'm doing this work all by myself that he's supposed to be helping me with. And I'm thinking, why is taking him so long? Now, this is before the days of cell phones. You got to remember. So it wasn't like I could just pull my cell phone out, text him, hey, where you at, or anything like that. So I'm just waiting for him, and I'm working in the hot sun and everything. Man, going through the lemonade and tea, and it was a lot of work. A lot of work that day. A lot of hard work. Finally, he shows back up about 3 hours later. And what happened? And he come up with a story. I don't remember what he said. Like he had car problems or something like that. So I just dismissed it. All right, well, let's get back into this. And so he helped me out for the rest of the day. A couple years passed after that. I was talking to old Buck McSwords. And he says, hey, do you remember that house that you and Jordan helped me strip and paint? I said, yeah, I do remember that. He says, do you remember if Jordan was there and helped you that entire first day when you guys were stripping that house? I thought about it, and I said, well, now that you mention it, he said he forgot something at home, went to pick it up, and then had car problems. He was gone for a few hours. And Buck says, I know he was. He said, I went out there, out by Jordan's place, and I remember Jordan lived in that barn out in the country. And actually, Buck and his family lived not too far from Jordan. So Buck said, I had gone back to my house for some, Buck would have like several projects going on at a time. So that's why we were left there by ourselves, working on that house, because he'd have like 2 or 3 different projects going on at a time. He said, I went out to the house to get some stuff for this other project I was working on. He said, and I took the back roads to get there. He said, I was back on this no-name back road. And as I'm driving the gravel dirt road, he says, as I'm driving, I see up ahead, there's a car pulled off to the side of this back road out in the middle of nowhere. And he said, I pulled up next to it real slow and took a look. He said, and there was Jordan parked under a shade tree, sleeping in the driver's seat. Man, I laughed so hard. I never did bring that to Jordan's attention, by the way, while he was alive. Then I understood why Buck was smiling about that, because he knew the story. He knew what was up. Jordan just got tired of working that day. I mean, within like the first 30 minutes, 40 minutes. And so he concocted this story. I got to go pick something up at the house. And then he just drove out to one of those back roads where he thought nobody would see him, parked the car, and took like a 3-hour nap while I sat there working all day long for those 3 hours out in the hot sun on that house all by myself, simply because he didn't want to do the work. So that was what I was getting ready to say when I started to tell the story. He was not a real physical guy, Jordan. He wasn't a real physical worker or anything like that. He was more of a, well, he would be like a video gamer today and that sort of thing, you know, kind of soft work, we call it, where I'm from. You know, person who wants to sit at a computer all day, kind of like what I'm doing now. So I can't really knock it. Sitting behind a computer all day. But it's not the work that I growed up doing. Yes, I know I just said growed up, but that's the way they say things around here. That's not the kind of work I grew up doing. It was all physical labor.